It's getting real. That's right. It's
There
getting
it
real.
is.
So tell me how to say your last name.
My last name is pronounced Herberger.
Herberger. Okay, maybe I can remember that. Herberger. That's pretty simple. It's pretty
Yeah,
easy.
yeah, it's pretty
Um,
close to hamburger. Yeah, joked about that a lot in high school. So,
yeah. Did they call you the Hamburglar or
oh
anything like
yeah,
that? Or
every variation you could possibly imagine. Every
yeah,
variation.
I'm sure. Herberger. All right, good stuff. This episode of Real Turf Techs on Golf Course Industries Superintendent Radio Network is presented by Foley Company, a strong supporter of equipment technicians and golf course maintenance departments everywhere. Foley Company offers a proven solution for above and below the turf for turf professionals everywhere. To learn more about Foley Company's line of reel grinders, bed knife grinders, and the Air 2 G2 family of products, or to find a distributor, visit www.foleyco.com. Foley, ready for play. Welcome to the Real Turf Techs Podcast, episode 131. Today we're talking to Ben Herberger, equipment manager at Shooting Star Golf Club in Teton Village, Wyoming. Ben is the lone tech in his fleet of primarily Toro equipment. Let's talk to Ben. Welcome, Ben, to the Real Turf Techs Podcast. Thanks for coming on. How you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Trent. It's a pleasure to get to talk to you.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited. And what I'm really excited about is you're in one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to. And not that I've been to a lot of places. I stayed in the South for a long time, but I have started traveling recently. And I was lucky enough. We took my sister and I, she's 4 years younger than me, took my dad for his 80th birthday last September. And
There you
we flew
go.
into Jackson Hole and
Uh-huh.
then spent we spent a day at the Tetons and then the next 3 or 4 days at Yellowstone and then flew out of Jackson Hole. And man, it was, yeah, something else.
Oh, there you go. I got to ask, which park was your favorite one? Did you enjoy Yellowstone more or Grand Teton?
Well, so my sister asked me this question and I said,
Okay.
it's apples and oranges
Okay.
to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I really enjoyed both of them and
Yeah.
I couldn't pick one over the other. I mean, they're different in their
Yep.
own right. I mean, Yellowstone, what I saw of it anyway, is a whole lot bigger than what I saw of the Tetons. But the Tetons, we seen a moose, and we
Yeah.
didn't see it. We didn't see any moose in Yellowstone.
There you
We
go.
did see plenty of buffalo, though.
Yeah,
Yeah, a
they're
lot of
everywhere up
buffalo.
there. Yep.
Yeah, that was crazy. Tell us how you got into the turf industry.
Well, I don't know. I got kind of a boring story, I guess. My family actually owns a golf course, so I was kind of born into it. As far as I can tell, I'm about fourth generation that's worked in the industry. Great grandpa was the superintendent down in Salem, Oregon, where I'm from.
Okay.
And then my grandpa was a superintendent and bought a 9-hole country club at the time back in 1950. And that's been the family course. That's in Oregon City, and that's actually where I grew up. So
Oh, that's awesome, though. So cool. I mean, a lot
yeah,
of history there.
yeah,
That's
man.
good stuff.
I think I was 5 years old going out and helping my dad change
Mm-hmm.
cups, carrying his bucket for him and running after the flag. But
Yeah, no, that's cool stuff. That's awesome. Yeah, so what got you into turning wrenches and on that side?
yeah, well, it's a little bit more of an interesting part of the story. My dad had a mechanic that worked for him for a number of years that moved on. While he was there working for my dad, I needed a method of transportation, so he helped me pick out what every good 18-year-old boy needs, and that's a motorcycle. So
Yes.
got that. Yeah, he helped me fix it up, rebuild the engine, rebuild the transmission, go through the whole thing. And basically, that was kind of my introduction to actually turning wrenches. Before that, my dad always kind of saw something in me, would bring home broken pieces of equipment from the golf course, motor here or a board there. Let me just tear it apart with some little tools I had at home.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of always been an inclination of mine.
That's cool.
Um,
Super cool.
Yeah, a couple years after my dad's mechanic moved on, he gave me a call one day out of the blue. I think I was working some crummy construction job at the time, and in all fairness, I wasn't any good at it. And he rang me up and asked if I wanted to be his assistant mechanic working with him at a country club in North Portland. And at the time, the gentleman was 72 years old. And so his
Mm-hmm.
plan was to show me the ropes for a couple of years and then transition onto a beautiful retirement.
Mm-hmm.
I worked there for a couple of years, and then he never seemed like he was getting super uncomfortable in his chair. So I found a job with a local Toro distributor.
Oh, okay.
Applied there, was a mobile tech for a couple of years. So that was kind of my overall introduction into wrenching. After that, I worked there for a couple of years, got married, moved close to the wife's family into Central Oregon, worked for a place called Black Butte Ranch, and then the last place before this one was Sun River Resort, Crosswater Golf Course, and all of that stuff.
Okay. Yeah. So how did you get to Jackson Hole? Or why are you there?
Why am I in Jackson
It's
Hole?
yeah, because it's so beautiful.
No, it's beautiful. Yeah, honestly, it's kind of more pragmatic for me than that. What it kind of came down to when we moved to Central Oregon initially, it was the cheap part of the state to live in, which was great for a young broke married couple. Well, it became the most expensive part of the state and then kept going up and going up. And I basically got to the point where we couldn't afford rent. We had to move one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
This job in Jackson came up, and my wife and I looked at it and we're like, okay, we know what prices are like in Jackson Hole. There's no way we can make this work.
Mm-hmm.
But my wife encouraged me to apply and talk with the superintendent and get to see what was going on, see how they make it work here. And, talking to him, and honestly, him and I have a great relationship, and we had a 2-hour conversation that first time. So we just hit it off and was willing to make the leap. And we're doing life here now in gorgeous Jackson, Wyoming.
That's awesome, though. So cool. And
Yeah.
I think that's so important to getting along with the superintendent or your director, whatever their title might be, is that relationship. If that relationship is good, it can be the best work environment in the world. And if that relationship is bad, it can be the worst work environment in the world.
Yep,
So
it
that is,
can be.
and I think, like you're saying, when you interviewed and you have a 2-hour conversation, you can have a pretty good idea, like, okay, I think I can get along with this guy or gal or whatever the case may be. But I want to hear a little bit about your time on the road with the
Yeah.
Toro distributor,
Heck yeah,
because
man.
that brings back memories for me.
Oh, dude. It was crazy. It was, yeah, me and another tech basically covered the whole state of Oregon, and all the shop work
Hmm.
and the southwest side of Washington. So we were everywhere. It was fix this, fix that. A lot of the warranty calls, I'm sure you saw it. It's all
Mhm.
hydraulic or wiring essentially, unless something, truly breaks in warranty.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, man, we were everywhere.
Hmm.
Like I said, the majority of the state of Oregon in the couple of years I worked there. Man, I learned so much because you're constantly chasing after a different repair on a different piece of equipment that maybe you haven't seen. Maybe it's brand new to the
Mhm.
customer. It's a fresh release. I mean, there was so much stuff. Yeah, that was kind of how I got introduced to the guys over in Central Oregon and was able to make that connection and that move
Oh, yeah, yeah.
after my wife and I got married. So, yeah, no, I
Yeah,
mean,
it's a great
shoot.
network opportunity. And I know I spent a lot of time on the phone with the TAC team at Toro and getting to
Yeah.
know those guys up there. And I mean, the amount of knowledge that I gained talking to them and troubleshooting, because that's what
Oh,
they've done every day, all day long. And I mean, they were experts on these pieces of equipment. And yeah, I don't know if I ended up working on more rough mowers, but I talked to Eric Bowmeister and
yeah.
Ryan. I can't remember Ryan's last name. Anyway, I talked to those two because they were over the rough series of mowers, and I talked to them too a lot and learned a ton of stuff. And just like you're saying, I mean, you can learn so much working for a distributor like that in a short amount of time, because I mean, it's a new problem every single day. Where at the golf course, I mean, like now, and we buy all our equipment. We don't lease anything. So, I mean, our stuff gets old, but the random weird problems, I mean, maybe you get one a month where, at the distributor, it's every single day, maybe two or three during a day
Oh yeah.
if you can knock
Yeah.
them out
That was,
quick.
I don't know about you, but that was some of my favorite stuff to chase down. That kind of random weird stuff. Like,
Mm-hmm.
shoot, I think we had a outcross right when that tractor unit, not a tractor if you talk to an engineer, but that thing came out,
Yep, yep.
and they'd thrown an AC kit on it from the factory, which is great, but it wouldn't work. And it was at the yard. My gosh, we got to figure this thing out. It won't even kick on. So I had to climb up on the roof of that thing and pull off the vent to get to the actual wires. Crossed a couple wires. They were in the wrong spot. Popped them back together. And like, that was great. But I mean, that took like, 45 minutes, hour of chasing down wires.
Yeah.
Like, okay, how the heck does this thing even work?
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, talking to the TAC guys was great. I think, shoot, it would seem like a brand new problem to me, but they'd be like, yeah, we've had 20 of these this week. What's
Mm-hmm.
yours? Yeah, sorry, man. Thrown on the pile, but this
Yeah.
relay or whatever went out. And you guys seen it? Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Not a biggie.
That was another thing that I always made sure to tell the customer, this is not the first time I've seen that.
Yep.
Yeah, and if it was the first time, I really tried to resist saying that because, I don't know why, but it seems like the end user hears that a lot. Like, oh, you're the only one with this problem. So if it was a known problem, I'd say, oh, we're seeing this everywhere.
Yeah.
Just be straight up and honest with them. And I think that definitely makes them feel a whole lot better because when
Oh,
you
yeah,
tell them they're the only one.
yep. You're the only crazy out there having this problem.
Yeah.
I would,
Yeah.
I did the same thing. I'd shoot like the 4000 series back in 2013. They were putting that they were first putting the tier 4 in it. Had a
Mm.
bad run of wiring harnesses, just pulled too tight against the bell housing and they would break. And we were chasing those down for years. So every time I had a customer call up with some DPF issue on their 4000, I don't know why it was always the DPF, but that's what it would freak out about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, man, don't worry about it. I know what the part number is. We'll chase it down. It's probably going to be a wiring harness, but we'll come out there and look at it just to make sure. You're not the only one. This is a
Mm-hmm.
problem. And Toro knows it was a problem and they fixed it since. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Well, I remember the 4500, once it got up around 2,500 hours, maybe 3,000 hours, customer would call and say, it won't go forward, it won't go reverse. Or they would say it'll, work in low, but it won't work in high, or it'll work in high, but it won't work in low. So the first thing, have you check the O-rings on the spool valves and the four-wheel drive valve. And what's that? Just pull them out. It's underneath the
Yep.
floorboard and see how many O-rings are missing and replace those
Yep.
and then get back to me and see what's happening.
Yep.
Because, yeah, I mean, it was just going to happen.
I know. I love taking calls like that. It was fun trying to diagnose stuff with guys. There was this one guy, I think I'm free to talk about his. I don't think he's still in that position, but he called me up and I think he was brand new on the job at this little 9-hole mom and pop course. And he could not figure out for the life of him why the reels would not go down on a 5410. And he called me up after 2 days of ripping apart the whole operator console, ripping apart every control, testing it all. And he calls me up on the phone and asks, okay, so what the heck's going on? I'm like, well, okay, so where's your foot pedal at? Where's your switch, high-low switch? It's like, what's that? Like, that's that aluminum piece of metal kind of off to the right of the, forward reverse control. And I don't know, you can bleep this out. He goes, and he goes and he flips it and you drop it. And it works like a charm. Yeah, that was the last time I heard from that kid. But
Yeah.
I assume he got the problem straightened out.
I know, but I don't know. I think, anyway, I know I've done it plenty of times. I think we've all done it.
Yeah.
You just get in your head and you say, you forget everybody tells you keep it simple, but sometimes you don't. And you just jump in the rabbit hole and start digging as deep as you can.
Yep.
And I mean, I've done the same thing, tear wire harnesses apart and rip all the loom off, and then it'll be some stupid something like, yeah, why did I not look at that? So,
No, we're all guilty of that,
oh yeah,
especially, yeah, in the heat of the moment when you got somebody pressing for that piece of equipment, you need it back. Yeah, you go into full mad scientist mode and nothing's good after that.
oh yeah, for sure. Well, what is your least favorite part of the job?
All right. It is not sand. There's actually been occasions where I have told people where they should probably throw some sand on there. That green looks like it needs it. We're getting grainy. We're getting thatchy. Let's toss some sand.
Mm-hmm.
My least favorite part of the job, I hate greasing. I absolutely hate running the grease gun, getting it all over. That's
Mm-hmm.
my least favorite part of the job. I will. I've had some good guys, especially here. I've got some really good guys. I definitely let them grease it. In the past, I've had, uh, we don't, as an industry, we don't attract rocket scientists, you know? So I barely trust them to put the right fuel in it, let alone put grease in a bearing.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, so right now I'm handling it all myself.
I don't. This reminds me of a funny story. This good friend of mine, he worked for an electrical company on a directional boring crew, and they
Yeah.
had a Vermeer directional boring rig, whatever it's called, and something had broke on it, and so he calls the mechanic up, and the mechanic's like, "When's the last time you greased it?" He's, "Oh, we grease it every day," and he's totally lied. So
Uh-huh.
and I don't know why I was out there that day, just goofing off or whatever. But anyway, he gets the grease gun and he gets a big glob of grease on his finger and he smears it on the grease spitting. And I'm like, dude, a mechanic is not going to buy that at all because inside where the grease is supposed to be, he's going to know it's not been greased. He
Yep.
can't get one over on it by doing that. But yeah, that was good stuff.
Yeah. That reminds me of a couple times we had a couple smoked HDX engines working at the distributor. And we're like, okay, when was the last time you guys changed the oil? Like, oh, we change it all the time. It's great oil. I'm like, okay. So you pull the drain plug and it comes out crystal clear. But you look at the cylinders, you pop the head off, they'll score it up. There's not been
Mm,
any oil in this. It's all nasty inside. So you guys blew up the engine and then just be honest,
yeah.
we'll figure it out. It's not going to
Right,
be
right.
not a big deal one way or another. If it's, give me the details, we can fix it quicker.
That's right. Well, tell us what your favorite tool is.
Oh man, I think I waffled on this one. I read that question and I'm like, man, what's my favorite tool?
It's hard to
Dude,
pick one.
I know, especially as mechanics, we all tend to be a little bit of a tool hound. I think probably my favorite one is I carried in my pocket since I've worked at the distributor is a little baby 4-inch set of Nipex,
Ah,
just
okay.
4 inches.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that Nipex, those are really quality tools.
Yep. Yep. It's come in handy
That's good
for so
stuff.
many things. Usually I think I got it because, or started carrying them. So I was checking hydraulic fluid on something and the dang cap was stuck on there so tight I couldn't get
Mm.
it loose by hand. So I pulled these out and, cocked right off. It was
Yep.
A-okay.
Sometimes that's all you need, just a little bit more leverage.
Exactly.
Well, what do you do to relax and find your balance up there in the beautiful country?
It is beautiful country. But right now I've got a 2-year-old at home, so I don't get to do a ton of hobbying anymore. Used to be big into fly fishing. I've got an old hot rod Ford I like to fix up and drive around. Used to be into motorcycles prior. I had a bad accident, so
Mm.
that ship sailed, hence the hot rods.
Okay.
Um, these days, basically, what I get to do for fun is I go running in the morning. That's what I do around here. Go run before work, and the scenery is gorgeous. Watching the sunrise come up over the
Oh
Tetons, it's
yeah,
great.
yeah. It's
Or the other
something
side,
else.
the
Something
wind.
else. Love it. What has been your biggest challenge to date?
Dude, that's a really good question.
Maybe you hadn't had one, and that's okay too.
No, I think
Tell us your secret.
my deep dark secret. No, I think the biggest challenge I've had overall is it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. Not always getting along with the superintendent or the director of
Mm,
agronomy.
Yep.
And yeah, not that I think anybody that works there will ever listen to this, but they might. It was at a job previous, and we'll leave it at that. But it's rough, man. It's rough dealing with a guy that you walk past his office and you just hope he doesn't look up at you. You just want to go and do your thing in the shop, keep turning out the
Mm,
best product you possibly can, and just pray that this guy doesn't need to come talk to you for some reason.
yeah,
Um,
that's a tough situation.
can't say I always dealt with that well, but yeah, that
Yeah.
one's probably the biggest challenge.
I don't. So I was in Florida a couple weeks ago, or whatever. It's been a month ago now, I guess. And I got to hang out with Haas for a little while, and he was telling me about the superintendent. And I don't remember the guy's name, and not that it matters, but that he worked for. And he said this was the angriest person he had ever met. Like he was just always in a terrible mood. But he had us dying laughing because he said he would tell this guy, like, he'd be leaving the shop or leaving work or whatever, and he'd be like, "All right, man, have a good day." And the guy would say, "Don't tell me what to do." No, I just thought that was so funny. That's how angry this guy was. You tell him to have a good day, and he yells at you, "Don't tell me what to do." So yeah, he had us rolling on that. That was good stuff.
That's great, man. Yeah,
What
find the
what's one of
humor.
the what's one of the strangest things you've seen around the golf course?
Oh, shoot, man. I waffled on this one too, because I swear I've seen just about everything, especially working for a dealer. Gosh, the stuff that you come across is just mind-boggling sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I had to boil it down to two things, I think. Probably the single strangest was working out at my folks' place. We were trimming up trees right around one of the greens. And I was looking up. I was running the pole saw. I saw this metal thing pointing up by the tree. It's on hole number 5. Well, my little brother climbs up there and he pulls down a putter. Somebody had
Oh,
gotten
no way.
so mad at their
Mm-hmm.
shot on the 5 green, they chucks their putter into a tree. And these are old, Port Orford cedar trees. So the branches are super thick. So that thing did not give it up. I don't even know what happened to that thing. We gave it to my dad, and I think he said he knew whose it was and
Oh
was
yeah,
kind of
that's
into
fun.
it.
That's good stuff.
But there was another time we had a close call, probably the closest call I've had to somebody like getting seriously hurt on the golf course at Black Butte Ranch behind our driving range. It's pretty hilly there. It's built right in the mountains, and it starts to go up a grade. Well, this guy was running on, I think it was a 3000 series John Deere tractor with a little aerifier in the back to just go and, spot aerify some rough spots, some compacted spots. And he was driving back down the hill when he noticed what he thought was water pouring off the steering wheel angle adjust. And all of a sudden, he loses steering, he loses everything because that steering pump is just gushing fluid out onto his foot. And he keeps driving. Eventually, the steering goes completely out, and he's heading towards this cliff. And the thing won't stop. It won't do anything. So he eventually kills it just as the front tire catches on a rock right on the edge of the soft gravel just before he's about to go off the edge. And that was probably the scariest thing we saw because it would have been a 20-yard drop into rocks and trees. And yeah, that was scary. So the next day I got to go sit down with the crew and be like, hey guys, if you see water pouring off of anything on one of these machines, just shut it off and call me. Don't try and run it back to the shop. There's no water on any of this stuff that looks crystal clear. So that's probably the scariest close call we've had. That would have been death.
Do you have a mentor in the industry?
No, I thought about this a little bit. My mentor probably would have to be my dad's old mechanic who hired me on. He was a old pipe fitter and rough and tumble sort of guy, ex-Navy, ex-biker, just lived a hard life. He was the easiest talking sort of guy you could ever meet. Just laughs at everything, always had a joke, always would put people in a good mood. And I've tried to take that with me in the shop because I've known a lot of mechanics who, dude, you just don't want to talk to that guy. He's got a problem every single day, and he's more than happy to lay into you, whether it's your fault or not.
Mm-hmm.
So Yeah, he taught me how to laugh and how to try and keep the guys laughing. And I tried to keep as much of that as possible um, going through my career.
That's a really good trait to hang on there, and that's a super good mentor. And when you were describing this person, that's not what I was picturing.
Yeah.
Somebody
Yeah.
that's happy-go-lucky, that's been in the Navy and they're, a biker and probably have tattoos and, I mean, all the
Uh,
things that go along with that. Yeah,
yeah,
you
he's
can't always judge a book by its cover, and that's a fact. I knew this
absolutely.
guy that was covered head to toe in tattoos, and he even had 5 stars around his neck. Super nice guy, most down to earth. I mean, just normal. Like you run into him and he'd talk about his garden and how his garden was doing. And I mean, that's not what you
Yeah.
expect to come out of this. And he was a big dude too, probably 6'4", 6'5", 300 pounds. I mean, monster of a guy that looked really scary. And he'd talk about his garden,
Yeah.
just crazy.
Yeah. You never know. Yeah. Never know where you'll meet a gentle soul.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That was my mentor there, Terry.
It's good stuff. What would be your dream job or opportunity?
Oh, shoot. Man, I think I'm in it. I've worked enough places and I've seen enough operations that the type of facility it is holds less attraction to me than the people I work with and work for.
Mm,
I not yeah. I think that the biggest deciding factor in coming to Jackson wasn't pay, it wasn't benefits, wasn't even the Jackson whole area and the beauty of the Tetons. It was the fact that my superintendent were able to have this hour, 2 hour conversations. And,
hmm
I was able to see like, this is a guy I can not only work for, but I can respect and I like. And, I want to see where this relationship goes. Um, yeah. So right now, it's here. As long as
That's
that,
awesome. But yeah, lucky you. That's really good stuff.
yeah, dude.
Yep, that's awesome to have that kind of relationship with somebody that you have to see more than your wife and kid, probably. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of times we do. We spend more time with these people at work than we do with our family.
Yes, yeah, we do. My
So,
my wife likes to joke that I've got a budding bromance going on, and she's funny
yeah.
anytime I talk about what's
Oh,
going
yeah.
on at work.
Yep, yep, yep. I've been the butt of those jokes several times.
Yep, yep.
What technician would you like to work with for a day?
I think the guy I'd like to work with for a day, I'd be probably John Patterson over there. What is it?
Mm,
Atlantic
yeah.
or Atlanta Country or Athletic Club?
Atlanta, Atlanta Athletic Club. Yep.
There we go. I got it
Yeah.
right in the end. So
That's
yeah,
all good. Yeah. No,
that guy.
and yes, he would be a great one to spend a day or two or a month as long as
Oh
you
yeah,
can and just
yeah,
be a sponge, absorb as
absolutely.
much knowledge as you can.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not him. Then I'd love to spend a day with that old mentor of mine, Terry. Oh, I haven't seen that guy in years. I think he retired last I knew.
hmm Yeah, that'd be
Those two
super
guys be
cool.
solid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so do you think he's still around Oregon somewhere?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I know he's still back in Oregon, and I'm sure he'd love to come out here. Yeah, it's easy to tempt people over this direction, as maybe you can believe. So,
Oh, yeah, and I mean, if you ever need me out there, I mean, if you need help changing a tire or something, you just let me know. I'm your guy.
oh yeah, go consider yourself formally invited. Come
I'll
see
jump
you.
on the plane right now. Um,
Oh, there's
yeah,
not
and
too much.
I'll change the smallest tire in your shop because I
Ooh.
know how big a pain in the that is.
Oh yeah, it's funny. The guys, whenever I'm changing a tire, we have a manual tire changer here, so it's all
Hmm?
brute force. They think the big ones are the ones that suck. I'm like, no, guys, these
Yeah.
ones are easy. You want to change one of those little 8-inch rim tires for me? That one sucks.
Mhm.
Especially if it's a trailer tire and it's an 8-ply on top of it. Oh,
Yep. Terrible. Yep.
yep.
That's
Well, I'll
good
save one
stuff.
for you. I'll
All right.
save
Yep.
a test
Save
for you.
one.
Justify the trip.
What do you know now you wish you'd known on day one?
I wish I had known on day one that so much of this job comes down to people and how you relate to people. On top of that, kind of hand in hand is managing those expectations. especially working at the dealer, working at the distributor. You want to try and please the customer as best you can. But I think it's better when you, what is it, undersell but over deliver.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, dude, this is going to be $2,500 and it's going to take us 10 plus hours. And if you can knock it out in 4 and it's $1,000, the guy's happy. Same with your superintendent. Like if you know a job is going to take a bit, yeah, plan for some unexpected occurrences to happen. Guys are going to come in the shop and grab you for whatever out in the course. Today it's going to take a little bit longer. And then if you can deliver it quicker, absolutely. It's great. He'll be happy. You'll be happy. And nobody will have mismanaged or poor unmet expectations.
I think that is super good advice. That's one of the best answers I think I've heard from that question. But the advice of not over promising what you can deliver on. And
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just built into my nature, but I was always really reluctant to say how fast I could fix something unless I
Oh,
knew exactly, if I'd done it 100 times, I'd say this takes about this amount of time. But
yeah.
if I'd not done the job, not going to put a
Yeah.
time limit. I don't need that pressure on myself
Yep.
or our crew or, anybody else. We'll get it done. You go play somewhere and
Yep.
we'll get it taken care of.
Well, and you're always one broken bolt away from absolute heartache in any job. So it's,
Oh,
yeah.
for sure. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and I've told this story probably on the podcast before, but I had the superintendent call me. He was down the road. I didn't know him that well, and I didn't know his mechanic at all, but he says, "How long does it take to grind a triplex?" And
Well,
I said, "I have no idea how long. I don't know what shape the reels are in. I don't know if you're replacing the bed knives. I don't know how old the reels are, what kind of condition they're in. I mean, I've got some junk from ball fields that I've spent a day on one reel, and maybe not even finished it in that day. It was so bad. So,
yeah.
I don't know. There's too many variables there, and I was not going to potentially throw his technician under the bus, not
Oh,
knowing
yeah.
what the situation is.
Oh, yeah.
Because you never know.
No, I mean, there's all the quick answers, but yes, you never know if the actual condition and the shape of it is. I mean, for all you know, he's been mowing rocks for the last month and there's not a straight edge left on that dang reel. It could take him all day. He
Oh,
might
yeah.
have to replace the dang
Right.
thing. So,
Yeah, it could have a
yeah.
50 thousandths cone in it or something. It's going
Oh,
to take
yeah.
you an hour to grind out. Yeah, I mean, who knows? So, how do you deal with that person? Or do you have any of those persons working on your crew?
I currently don't really have any of those people. Um, when I
Congratulations.
thank you that, yeah, that's partly because we are seasonal and people who are generally not good, get cycled out. That said, I tried once again, I try not to lose my cool at just about anything unless the guy has gone and intentionally banged up one of my pieces of equipment, running into a tree on purpose, dropped it in the lake. I mean, the most he's probably going to get from me is, come on, man.
Hmm.
Can we, what were you thinking here? But outside
Yeah.
of that, I mean, should, I'll let them know what I think they should have done or how they should have operated the piece to avoid that problem in the future. And if it keeps being a problem, I'll go and take it to the superintendent and let him sort it out. I know you've got that 3-strike rule with the blower nozzle, and I think that's brilliant.
I love it. Yes. Okay. I got to confess something. And so it wasn't last year. I think it was the year before when the show was in Orlando. And I went by the Buffalo Turbine booth. And the gentleman there was showing me the new band they have that holds the chute on. And
Yeah.
it's extra wide and you don't need a wrench or anything to tighten it and it clips on. That thing is legit. It's awesome.
Yep.
And you hear me knocking, knock on wood. Um, Hopefully it doesn't pop off, but it hadn't been popping off since we went to those. They
That's
just,
great.
yeah, hold it on. And they're not cheap. I mean, they're $100 or something, but not to have to put that thing on once a day in the fall, that's
Yep.
worth $100.
Oh,
to
yeah.
me.
Are you able to retrofit that on the older ones, or is that
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah. Cause I mean, I still have, golly, I think mine's, I don't know, it's the early 2000 model Buffalo
Oh, shoot.
blower
Yeah.
on its second engine and second turbine, I think.
Check.
The axles maybe are original. The hubs aren't for sure, but I think the axles are original, and that's about it. Original paint.
There you go.
But yeah,
Yeah.
everything else has been replaced. So yeah, you call them up and they can get you the part numbers for that. And the other thing I did, they have, well, a little bit of a story too. Wade Borthwick at, I think it's Uplands Golf Club in British Columbia, he made his own bearing kit for the turbine, so the way it rotates,
Yeah.
instead of being in that plastic, he machined some stuff and put some bearings in there. And anyway, super cool setup. And now Buffalo offers a kit, but Buffalo's kit is not cheap. I want to say it was like $600 or something, but it is really nice.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know if you go back through my Twitter, I'm pretty sure I posted a video after I installed it, and you just
Ship
push
it.
it one time and the whole thing will just spin around and around. It's pretty cool.
Well, that's great.
With the belt on,
That
obviously.
does that replace those plastic
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's going to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
way better. Yeah.
Hmm. And I think that's one reason it's expensive. It's not just the bearings, it's the metal band that the guide is, I guess, for lack of a better term. Because you replace that and then you put the bearings on there and they have little spacers and it comes with the screws and all that stuff. But pretty nice setup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'll have
What
to look
kind
into
of,
that.
yeah. Um, if you remind me, I'm pretty sure I still have the part. I was actually going through my desk the other day because I'm a hoarder and I never throw anything away. But I found that card, the business card, and they had wrote the part numbers on the business card. So I have that in my desk drawer and I even know where it is. And
Okay.
usually for most of us hoarders, we don't know where anything is. But this one particular item, I know where it is.
Dang. Well, I'll shoot you a message and try and get that from you.
Yeah, yes, do it.
Get ready for tips and tricks.
What kind of tips and tricks you want to share with us?
Oh man. So this tip is, yeah, it's not mine. And I came across it working at the distributor. And I don't know if you have to replace many of those like hydraulic blocks before, and it's got, 10 hoses going to it. What I ended up doing, I tried the paint pen technique or magic marker, all that, trying to get some indication of where each hose is supposed to go. And it always seemed like it'd get rubbed off either between removing it or cleaning it up or whatever. And so what I ended up doing was grabbing a center punch and putting a little dimple on either the crimp on the hose or on the block itself. And as long as those dimples matched up, I know that hose is going in the right spot on the new block.
Ah, okay.
So that was something I came across, and I was having to swap a block on an old 580D batwing mower.
Okay. Yeah, I don't. The old 580, man. I had a love-hate relationship with those. I had a customer, and they maintained a military base. Fort Stewart is outside a little south of Savannah, and extremely hot down there, swampy, buggy, not a very friendly place. But this gentleman had 5 of those, and they were all old, and he could work on them kind of, but he hated working on them. So he would call me, and I mean, we've become pretty good friends, and he was a good
Sure.
guy and all those things, but I spent a lot of time down there. And the craziest thing, the hydrostat on the 580D, it's a huge hydrostat, but you know what I'm going to say?
I got an
Maybe?
idea. Go
Okay.
for it.
All right. The charge pump, so it's a little G-rotor gear pump that's inside. It has a 16th inch keyway that drives the G-rotor, and that thing would shear. But so those things had a metal hood, which was a heavy duty hood. We would raise the hood up and it had ROPS, and we'd take a 4x4 and put it over the ROPS and over the back of the hood. and then we had a chain hoist, and we would unbolt everything and hoist the hydrostat up, take it apart right there, replace the 16th inch key, and put it all back together again. I mean, it was a day's work, but
Yep.
he had 5 of these machines, and we did all 5 of them, over a period of a year and a half.
There you go.
Yeah.
You got it perfected.
Yeah,
Well,
crazy stuff.
I think the worst part of working on those 580Ds is trying to switch out those wheel motors. That one hard line, it was always packed in there with grass and whatever, and become welded to the fitting. And there was no room to do. Gosh,
funny.
those things sucked.
Well, and so for the listeners, if you're not familiar with a Toro 580D, it has 3 72-inch decks. So it's, whatever, 16 feet of cut or whatever. So there's, it's 6-foot deck in the middle and the 2 wing decks that are 6 feet. And it was a beast.
Did yours have the Peugeot or did it have the Cummins in it?
No, I think that's a good question. I want to say some of his had the Peugeot and some had the Cummins.
Okay.
Because he had some different, And then I left the company before the 5900 came out, which replaced the 5. Yep,
Oh,
good
man.
times.
Yeah, dude. So I never had to yank one of those hydrostats out of the 580, but I did have to change one on a 5910.
Oh, okay, same thing.
Oh, God, that sucked, though. That was a nightmare on everybody's side. I think this thing was sort of under warranty, and it was for a school district up in Vancouver. And they probably hate my guts, but that thing was in the shop forever because Toro would only approve us to do so much work at any given time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we had to test the wheel motors. Well, wheel motors were shot. Rear wheel motors were shot, and it thrown shrapnel through the hydrostat.
Mm-hmm.
And so by the time this thing left the shop, it had all 4 wheel motors and a hydrostat done. Then this is probably the single sketchiest thing I've ever done. I had that 5910 up on the lift with the rear axle up on jack stands, the front wheels supported by those lift jacks, and I had to run the dang thing, and I had to do that to pull the hoses from the bottom of the pump, do all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had to run that thing up on the lift, 6 feet in the air to try and bleed the system, see if the thing worked or if I had any leaks. And man, I was so happy when that thing finally left the shop, but that took forever.
That's crazy. I remember Toro came out right before I left. They came out with a filtration kit, and it was mainly for the 5510 because they would have a wheel motor go out and it would take out the whole hydrostatic system and take out every motor and the hydrostat and everything. And so you had to filter the whole thing. It was a process.
Yep.
Yeah. Crazy stuff.
Yep. We had one of those. Used that too. We only had one. That one bounced between the 3 shops that were up in the P&W.
Mm-hmm.
And so you had to try and organize with the truck that was going that way or salesman that was going up. And it was fun. It was good times.
Yep. Good stuff. You got anything else you want to share with us?
Man, I think probably the only thing that I've got that might be something I'd like to talk about, and I think it might be good and kind of tie into some of the other stuff we brought up, is when you are on a job hunt or you're looking at the jobs on the job board, it's not just the bottom line. It's not just the benefits package or the name associated with it. It really comes down to, can you work with whoever your boss is? Are you two going to be a good match? Are you going to be the yin to the yang? Are you guys going to be oil and water and just completely devolve into a toxic relationship? And in that, have a conversation. Remember, the interview goes both ways. He's interviewing you to see if you are good for the job, and you're interviewing him to see if you're going to be good for the job. God knows I've taken jobs in the past where I wasn't the guy. I shouldn't have been the guy. But I took it and I got into a bunch of hot water by doing it. So,
I think
that's
some really good advice. Really good advice. Yeah, I love it. And I do think, I know people that they just they jump. They're always looking for the next dollar. And a lot of times it don't work out the best for them,
No,
and not for a dollar, if it's
no.
something substantial, life-changing money, maybe, but still, I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of good jobs out there. I mean, a lot of high-end jobs. I'm not going to say they're good jobs. A lot of high-paying jobs. And I don't even think twice about them because I'm so happy where I'm at and I
Right.
know what I got.
Heck yeah.
I know what I'm working with. I'm very fortunate where I'm at. We have, plenty of resources and I'm compensated well enough and, I'm happy,
Yeah.
and
That's what it
what
comes
what
down
is
to.
the price of being happy?
Exactly.
You
I think
know?
there's a number some guys have in their mind they'd put up with for, oh, I'll put up with the raging angry guy or the alcoholic or whatever for X dollars. Well, won't be long before that paycheck doesn't seem big enough to put up with the BS you're having to
Mhm.
deal with.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Man, if you've got it good someplace, that's worth its weight in gold. If you're
Mhm.
happy with the place you have to spend the majority of your waking hours, then that's not a bad thing.
Yep.
That's not a bad thing at all.
Well, and the other thing I wanna say is if you're not that happy at your place, is there a way you can become happy at that same place?
Yeah,
Not I know there's times it's probably better just to walk away, but I do think
absolutely. Yeah.
there's times where you can communicate. And I mean, everything I've
Yeah.
learned in my life is open communication. If
Yeah.
you're open with somebody, it ain't easy. I'm not saying it's easy to be
No,
open, but if you openly communicate with somebody, more than likely the situation is going to get better. And if
absolutely.
not, you go your separate ways.
Yeah. I think most good things, most important things that are worth doing in life are not the easy things.
Ah,
Like
yeah.
it's worth having that conversation. It's worth trying to see if it is something you can work out. And I think that honestly, if you can, well, we're a mechanic, we diagnose things, right? Um,
Hmm.
it's not too long before we can spot the flaws in whatever our boss, our relationships, all of these different things. If you can see that flaw and you know that's a problem and you can do something to fill it and or communicate that or be the gap between whatever that is and the rest of the guys, I mean, you can make that a really good relationship and you just got to
Hmm.
put in the effort to do it.
And if you're going to spend that much time with other people, might as well
Yeah,
make it worth everybody's while.
absolutely. Do your best to make sure you at least like the guy.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Before you sign the dotted line, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's do some rapid fire.
Hit me.
What's your favorite movie?
Dude, Master and Commander for me. That's
Ah,
Russell Crowe. But,
yeah, yeah, that was a good one.
yeah, man. Anytime that comes on, I'm like, oh, okay, this is where I'm parking it for the next bit.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What would be your last meal?
Yeah, my last meal would probably be prime rib, some roasted potatoes, and a nice peaty scotch.
Ah, okay. Yeah, what is a peaty scotch?
Oh man, I take that you're not much of a scotch guy.
No, not at all. I
Okay.
do not like lighter fluid in the least.
Well, then I definitely won't be offering you, but a peaty scotch has kind of got that campfire flavor towards the back end. It's that
Okay.
smokiness too.
All right.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. It's
So,
acquired taste, but yeah,
oh, yes. Let's see. When was this? A couple weeks ago, I went up for the Eric Duncanson Memorial Golf Tournament in North Carolina.
yeah.
And Eric Duncanson was a fellow equipment manager that passed away 3 years ago. Luckily, his wife and daughter was at the tournament, and I got to see them. Um, really great, humble, great people. And Eric was a close friend of mine.
Yeah.
And every year he would have a steel class at his shop in North Carolina. And I would drive up usually the day before and I'd spend the night at his house and hang out with him and his family and go to the class the next day and come back home. But Eric was from Scotland and he really liked his scotch.
Oh man.
Really liked his scotch. So I'm at his house one night and he says, try this. And he's telling me all about Scotch. And for it to be a Scotch, it's got to be aged in Scotland for 10 years. I don't remember all the rules, but, just ad-libbing here. But he's telling me all these rules. And he's telling me how old this one was. And he's like, what do you think about that? And I'm like, it's terrible, Eric. This is the worst thing I've ever put in my mouth. And he says, okay, hang on. And he gets this other one out that's supposed to be a lot better. And I'm like, no difference. It is terrible. It's just as terrible. And then we get to the third one that's supposed to be, the creme de la creme, I guess, of scotches. And he's like, oh, you're going to love this one. And I'm like, no, Eric, it tastes just like the first two you gave me. They're terrible.
Yep.
But so I understand it's an acquired taste.
Yeah, absolutely. And I take it you're not much of a drinker then.
Not anymore. So yeah, I quit, I guess, I don't know, 2 years ago, probably drinking.
Oh.
And yeah, I mean, before that, I wasn't never much on whiskey or liquor. I was more of a beer drinker. I really enjoy an IPA.
Yep.
I'm a big IPA guy. And we got some good IPAs around here too.
I'm from the Portland area, so that's kind of home for the microbrew, and IPAs are everywhere around there, man. Yeah, I don't think I've had an IPA from Georgia at all.
Let's see, I'm thinking Jekyll Brewery, Hop Dang Diggity is a really good one. Yeah, but who knows what y'all get out there in Jackson Hole from Atlanta? Probably not a whole lot. Sweetwater Brewery is really big here in Atlanta. Okay. I think it's a national brand now. And it's okay. We're going to be making everybody really thirsty in this episode.
Especially, yeah. Scotch sales will be amazing, and the Atlanta breweries won't be able to keep up.
That's right. Well, what are you most proud of besides your family?
Yeah, but definitely I'm proud of my family. But the thing I'm most proud of is when I get to watch an assistant technician catch something. Like he figures out, or he's finally mastered whatever skill I was trying to teach him. My last course I was at, my assistant there, gosh, that guy was great. He would catch on to anything after I showed him once, and it was the best thing. Made me proud, and it probably had nothing to do with me. It was mostly him.
Oh yeah,
yeah. No, that's the thing that I get most joy out of, watching somebody I'm teaching, catch on to whatever it is I'm showing them.
Oh yeah, for sure. Hands down, 100%. Nothing like it. Probably the most rewarding you can feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, that's been my experience anyway.
Well, that's
when you see that.
It's one of my favorite things about being an equipment manager. It's getting to have those assistants and get to teach, I'm probably fairly young really, but teach the next generation of equipment managers, the next generation of techs, and watch them catch on to it. That's the thing that I get a lot of pleasure and joy out of working in this industry.
I get really excited about younger people taking the initiative or, just wanting to learn, how to work with their hands. And I know, when I was a kid growing up, it just come natural, I guess. I always wanted to be working with my hands and figuring out how things worked. But it seems like you don't see that as often now, but hopefully it's still out there. We're just not seeing it as much. And I think some of it is opportunity too. A lot of these younger people don't have the opportunities that even I had when I was in high school, because we had a construction class and automotive class. They did welding. I mean, all the, trades was there. So you had a chance in high school to kind of get your hands on things.
It's definitely, it's dwindled a lot in the last few years. I think my class going through high school was the last they offered auto shop to. And it's kind of sad to see that happen. But I hope that more people out there are willing to put down, I don't know, it's probably not a soapbox, but willing to put down their phones and actually dive into the real world to a certain extent. Like there are these machines, there are these things that are around you that are marvels and wonders, and you're stuck on TikTok or Twitter, and you're hoping to be an influencer. And really, I mean, maybe there's some joy and happiness in that, but I think you'll be so much more satisfied turning around at the end of the day and being like, yeah, man, we fixed some stuff. We built some stuff today. That's
Oh,
pretty dang
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, yeah. And I've heard plenty of people that went to college, got a degree in whatever, and then they're sitting in a cubicle looking outside and they're just miserable. And, how would you want to spend your life, or why would you spend your life short? Why would you spend it in a cubicle doing something that makes you miserable?
Right? Creating
You know?
widgets for somebody else to make.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I
And
was,
not that every day is, roses at the golf course, but
no,
all in all, it's fun. I have
I mean,
fun.
oh yeah, right, we get the benefit. Our shops are rarely in ugly locations or ugly settings. So that's a huge benefit. But no, I was on an engineering track in college before I ended up in this job. And I realized pretty quick in college that, you know what? I hate sitting behind a computer all day.
Hmm.
I would rather do anything. I'd rather go take a bath in a tub full of scorpions than have to do this in and out every
I don't know
day.
about all that.
Oh, for me, it's that way.
Yeah.
I'd rather be doing something on my feet, walking around, seeing something happen in the world.
Very good. Well, tell the listeners how they can get a hold of you. You on any
Oh,
of
I
the
think,
socials, email?
yeah, I think I'm on Twitter. I think it's just my name, Ben Herberger. And I think I'm on LinkedIn, the same handle. And email-wise, if somebody wants to shoot me an email, it's going to be lengthy. It's bherberger@shootingstarjh.com. And I'm happy to talk to anybody that wants to talk to me here. If anybody ends up in the Jackson Hole area and wants to take a little peek at what we got going around the shop, reach out. More than happy to have anybody who wants to walk through the shop, come take a look.
Awesome. And you're in the WhatsApp group too, right?
Yeah, I'm in the WhatsApp group. So
Yep. So if anybody wants to join the WhatsApp group, just reach out to me or any of the rest of the community. You can find us. You can get in. Speaking of which, somebody tried to add somebody today, and I got to follow up on that. I just now remember to
okay.
do that. That's my squirrel brain hanging around J.R. Wilson too much. He texted me today, so I'm going to blame it on J.R.
There you go.
Squirreling out over here. I love that dude. Thank you so much, Ben, for being on. It's been fun, and I really hope I can get to Wyoming sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. No, it's been great to sit down and talk with you. I mean, I've watched some of your videos online. I've listened to podcasts before. So it's nice to actually put a real person to the image you see on the screen.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening to the Real Turf Techs podcast. I hope you learned something today. Don't forget to subscribe. If you have any topics you would like to discuss or you'd like to be a guest, find us on Twitter at Real Turf Techs. See you bye.